Hi, folks. I'm Tim Glotch. I'll be working with Alex Goronska for Breakout Session 4, which was titled, oh, geez, my lights just went off. Hold on. There we go. What scientific activities at Artemis Base Camp could feed forward into crewed Mars exploration? So I kind of interpreted this very loosely. Mars and the moon are very different bodies, and it's not necessarily the case that specific science done on the moon would feed forward and enable crewed exploration on Mars. But it may be the case that activities at Artemis Base Camp that are done in the pursuit of science could lead to innovations or to activities that would enable crewed Mars exploration. And so the themes came up with here are what are the specific technologies required for Mars science and exploration that can be matured at Artemis Base Camp? Do con ops at Artemis Base Camp prepare us for Mars exploration? Sorry, I should say concepts of operations. So that's actually how the crew and interacts with with each other and the base, and how they go about and robots, and how they go about actually doing their exploration. So the Artemis 3 geology team, the internal Artemis team for NASA, folks working on the jet activities are all working to develop concepts of operations for how the Artemis crew will explore and do science on the moon. And so one thing we want to think about is what are the major differences and similarities between lunar and Martian con ops in terms of how the crew will actually go about doing the science and the exploration. And then finally, at the moon, we don't necessarily have to worry about planetary protection procedures, but we will be in vicinities of ice that on Mars would potentially require stringent planetary protection. So are there specific planetary protection procedures for Mars that would likely be required that we can practice at Artemis Base Camp, and that would make sense to test at Artemis Base Camp before we unleash crew on Mars? And then, some questions related to this. What infrastructure is required to genuinely feed forward to Mars? Is there stepwise progression of activities, excuse me, that'll optimize future crewed Mars exploration? The assumptions are generally the same that you saw for the previous. You can go to the next slide. I don't have quite as much here. Just a few things to think about in terms of developing technologies for use at Mars. I stole the upper left slide from one of the Moon to Mars architecture white papers, looking at how, for instance, power generation might be affected by dust storms on Mars. And so we'll have to think about power, and can we take technology developed for the moon and just directly feed forward to Mars? Concepts for operations. You can see some astronauts working together in the middle. And then planetary protection, like I said in the first slide. So move forward, Ben, and that's all I have. So if you're interested in these questions, if you're interested in the moon and Mars and how we can use the moon to feed forward to human Mars exploration, please come to this breakout session.